the Lean Coordinator for DEC, and today I'm going to talk to you about the role of Lean in leadership. So if you've attended any of my past trainings, you may have noticed that they're a little broad. They're typically an hour long, covering very specific topics. This entire series that I'm going to be offering, I think it's on every 2 weeks on Mondays, is going to introduce a variety of topics with a leader-centered mindset. So assuming you are a manager of people and how you can utilize Lean in a way as a manager to run a Lean management system. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that means, as well as talking a little bit about the Lean we practice in DEC. So hopefully this should all be new content for all of you. I'm intentionally keeping things very specific. And I cannot see your hands because of what it's doing with my screen right now, but Carrie, if you can chime in if you see any questions, we'll try and move through the 20 minutes as best we can. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. So we're going to be talking today about the role of Lean in leadership, and what it's really about is building a legacy of improvement. And I'm going to start with this, as a lot of these trainings are going to be oriented. It's about discussion and introducing topics, because all these trainings are a half an hour long, and I'm interested more in having discussions and thinking about things and introducing you to concepts that we can always explore further. So I want to start with, how does your team need to grow to be successful? So when we talk about what your team does and what your team doesn't do, I want to know how your team needs to grow to be successful. So go ahead and raise your hands or throw something in the chat. But how does your team need to grow to be successful? It can be you, it can be your staff. What are the missing links? I can give people a minute to process that, because I know it's kind of a big question. All right, Josh says they need to have ownership of their work. That's great. And I think that'll really loop in with some of your future discussions about trust. Opportunities to play a leadership role, Carrie. That's great. Yeah, those two things are related, engagement and trust. Yeah, it's about building up the people beneath us, building a team of proactive, smart, capable individuals. Amber, opportunities to be challenged. That's a great one. All right, those are awesome. Josh adds clear understanding of when they need to check in and what they can work on independently. Amy says jurisdictional clarity. That's a good one. Ethan says consistent but efficient communication. Emily says clear communications. Helen says motivation and inspiration. Kathy says doing work that is valued. All right. And what's great about all of those, Josh says coaching. We're going to talk about that. So these are all things that it is possible to do imperfectly and improve on. And so a lot of the things that we're going to talk about through the entire training series is different ways of looking at the work that you're likely already doing, and how we can make positive contributions to those areas through the use of Lean and continuous improvement methodology. So I'm really excited to talk to you today, and I'm really excited to explore this further. But that's great. Thank you all for adding those ideas. Okay, so when we talk about leadership and the leadership training experience, and this is information I've pulled from past surveys of this group, and it's how you want to grow as a leader. And there are things like organization, team building, managing organizational change, time management and efficiency, project management, and improving service quality. All of those things are key to leadership, and they're also all things that we can use to really improve through the use of Lean. And how those things apply to what we do here in DEC is something we're going to talk about today. So what is lean in DEC? So when we talk about what lean was 4 or 5 years ago is very different from what it means now, and not just because I'm here now and I wasn't before, but it's expanded and grown while also making us question what lean even means. So what lean in DEC is now is the principle that a good idea can come from anywhere. So that leadership and staff can all contribute, can all offer their thoughts and ideas, and can all help grow. Participation by staff in our solutioning. So it's not just this is how it has to be done, you all do it, but let's work together on developing a solution that works for all of us. It's a structured problem solving methodology. So it's very much about eliminating waste and stepping through things methodically and logically so that we don't miss the things that seem obvious in retrospect or that don't have the level of buy-in that we were hoping to see. These are all things that Lean can help us do. It's a continuous effort. I know a lot of times it can seem like we do a Lean project and now it's leaned. Um, but Lean is really about plan, do, check, act, and it's a cycle. It's continuous. It's always looking for ways to improve. It's always trying to make those strives towards better efficiency, better products, better service. And in order to do all those things, we employ a series of tools. And Lean is about those tools. And because we've grown what Lean is in DEC, um, it's not just Lean. It's other things you might have heard of, like Six Sigma or um, human-centered design or systems thinking. We have a broad, expansive idea of the tools that we can use so that we can choose the right tool for the right problem. And a lot of times that can seem like a lot, which is why I'm here to be a resource and an aid in these continuous improvement steps. And I want to, through this training series, introduce a lot of ideas. You may not be able to walk away from any particular training and say, I know how to do blank, but understand like, I know that there is a way to deal with this particular challenge, and maybe I can do some additional research or I can reach out to John and we can work together on making things better. But principally speaking, in Lean, in DEC, we want to take a step back, understand the challenge, and then work with the team to solve it. It's principally what you're already doing, but it's through using tools and methodologies to achieve better outcomes, using the resources we have available. So that's what Lean is, but what does Lean leadership look like, and how do we know if we've achieved it? So Lean leadership really has two components. One is supporting Lean, and what that means is training a team of problem solvers. Your role as a manager to help people grow and develop is to train them and grow them and develop them. So for some of you, that might mean um, having them attend training on continuous improvement, but it could also mean coaching and other ways that we can grow staff and include them in the process. And then a lot of times where we can fall short is we'll identify a better way of doing business, but implementing those changes is hard. Change management is extremely difficult. And doing that in the right way to successfully realize the world that we've said that we want to build is a huge challenge. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that better in this training series. And then it's also enabling Lean. So you see this hurricane right here. For those of you that don't know, my past is as a hurricane researcher, so this strikes me deep into home, is we are very busy people doing a lot of work, and sometimes it can be really tough to reach our head above the whirlwind and improve. We need to stop putting out fires and start building processes to make those fires not happen. And it's a self-reinforcing cycle. So if you can etch out a little bit of time to improve processes a little bit, you have fewer fires to put out, which allows you more time to improve. Um, So it's a growth system, it's a self-perpetuating system that can lead to better outcomes. But the question is, how do you get there? And what I want to propose to you is by utilizing a lean management system. And what I mean by a lean management system will hopefully be fleshed out in the coming weeks, but I want to present to you a roadmap for the training that I'm presenting. So today we're talking about benefits of a lean team. We're going to talk a little bit about some ways we can make small improvements and also to lay out the case for the work that is to come. We're going to be talking a lot about a lot of tools, introducing a lot of tools, a lot of methodologies, a lot of ways of thinking, having a lot of discussions and open forums for ways that we want to think about work, because I don't want to come to you as a leader of how to be a manager. I don't want to come to you to tell you how you should be doing your business. But what I want to do is I want to talk to you about the kind of business that you're doing and introduce some ideas and principles that you can choose to involve in the way you do business. And that's what this roadmap is about. So we're going to start by understanding our current state and the way our staff and we do business as a team through data collection. And then we're going to talk about leader standard work and change management. Um, Change management's really tough, and through incorporating leader standard work and principles from that, we can really help grow our system. We're going to talk about visual management tools. So we are visual beings. We rely a lot on what our eyes tell us about the way the world works. And through using visual management tools and introducing them, it can really be a huge step forward for your team. We're going to talk about huddles and leading meeting principles so that our meetings can be as productive as we want, while also they represent a huge opportunity in terms of improvement, as well as how we spend that time and what that time can mean for us. Because as managers, you're probably in a lot of meetings. And so it represents a huge opportunity. We're going to talk about coaching, specifically the coaching kata. But one of the things that I want to do through this training is I'm going to try and minimize the amount of obscure Japanese or other terms and terminologies um, that might make this stuff alienating. I want to bring it down to brass tacks and what it means from a practical standpoint, bring it away from dogma, and talk about what's important to you in doing the work that you do. We're going to talk about a results-based accountability model. So how do we build one? How do we utilize data? How can we capitalize on the information that we gathered here in the data collection to really bring it forward and measure our improvement? And then finally, we're going to talk about strategic planning. So how can we and I see Carrie smiling. Um, so Carrie's the planner, she's the strategic planning guru, but we're going to talk about at a lower level how cascading and talking about measures and setting up goals and achieving those goals can be done using a um, lean management system. So I say lean management system like it's a thing that already exists, because it is a thing that already exists, at least in what it means to EPA. So as of September 2020, EPA implemented this in about 80% of their offices. The ELMS is the EPA Lean Management System. So it's a nested acronym, which are always fun, but we're going to be talking about a lot of the principles that they employ and they utilize very successfully in the EPA. So some key elements of that ELMS system are visual management. So we can quickly see if work is on or off schedule, identifying and monitoring progress towards targets. You'll see in a lot of these examples, like that's how I want to run, that's how I want my business to work, that's how I want my team to operate, and that's what we're going to be trying to build through this training series. Developing and tracking measures. Tracking process level metrics to determine if your organization will meet their goals. Engage in problem solving. That's something that I encourage people to be flexible about. I think if I had a criticism of the ELMS model is that it's a little bit rote. They seem to have a structure that they like to approach tackling problems in. But we are smart, we are adults, we are capable of processing different ways to solve problems. And I'm going to present you a toolbox, a way of accessing the deeper questions without following A, B, C, D, but like sometimes you need E or F. So we're going to explore a flexible way of tackling that. But we're going to focus on generating solutions to fix problems that cause pain. Um, they focus on huddles. So they use 15-minute weekly meetings. That forms the bulk of their meeting style when they are meeting as a team, as organizations, and they manage to progress strongly forward using just 15 minutes. Could you imagine a staff meeting that was only 15 minutes long? It's all about the focus and the context and the tools that they have available. And we can build something like that here in DEC. And I'm going to introduce those concepts through this training series. But it allows them to determine who needs help, what issues require help. It also works to break down silos. They focus on enhancing work environments, so creating predictability for customers and staff is really a focus of what they want, and creating a transparent, accountable workplace. And a lot of that happens through the steps you see above, through their use of A3s, through their use of visual management systems. They've built a system that makes everyone feel like they are a part of something bigger. And that's something that we can tap into, and that's something that's really powerful in DEC. So I know what you're thinking, and that's that here's John with another suite of things to add on to our giant plate full of stuff we already do. And I want to reinforce that I'm not proposing extra work to do on top of the work you already do, because you already are doing a lot of these things. It's about how we get there and the tools that we utilize and the methodology that we emphasize. And by changing the emphasis, by altering things very slightly, you can get very different outcomes. And if nothing else, I hope this training series that we work through will bring people together in terms of like discussing the challenges that they see and considering other ways of approaching these problems. So when we talk about what can you take away from this training, what can you take away from this that we're experiencing right now, we can talk about adopting an alien. So many of you have seen Caitlin's great alien training. So that's a really great system for thinking critically about how we handle meetings and the approach that we take to get there. And if a lot of the steps seem kind of arcane, it's to try and reinforce um, these changes in the way that you don't start by running a 5K, right? You work your way up to it. When you hit 10K, it's through practice. It's through repeated emphasis. This is built, designed to practice. We can also try replacing a meeting with an exercise. So for example, I asked folks, what does your team need to do to be successful? And maybe a place to start is, instead of just saying, what does your team need to be successful? We could work through a process like the 5 whys and step through this. We don't have time to do this today, but it's something to consider. Carrie, I see your hand up.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to flag for you that we only have 2 minutes left for this.
Yep,
So I didn't
which
know
is
if you
why
wanted
we're
to wrap
not
up
doing.
quick and take a question or two.
Yep. So I will end on the screen right here, which is the next steps. In the chat, I'm going to go ahead and post a link to the registration form for this training. So if you click that, it'll send you an email with the invitation to all of the trainings. They will each stand alone. They are not built on top of one another, but I would encourage you to try and attend all of them if you can. They'll all be recorded also, obviously, so that you can watch them afterwards in case you can't make an individual meeting. But they do really hang together into a lean management system that can really help revolutionize your team. So with the final 2 minutes, I want to pause on the screen so that you can see when those trainings are and pause for any questions.
Hey, John, do
Okay.
people register individually for them, or do they have to take the whole series?
So if you click that link and enter just a little bit of information, yep, Laura, they will be recorded. It will automatically send you a invitation that contains all of the trainings because they're bi-weekly. You'll notice there's a pretty big skip in here for the holiday. So it'll actually be a month between those two trainings, but it will send it to you for all of them, but you can obviously attend the ones that are most interesting to you. And then maybe you'll see, this is great. And then you can go back and watch the other ones. They do kind of hang together and they're a little bit self-referential, but they're also meant to stand alone. So I would encourage you to check out the first one and see how you feel when we really start getting into topics and really get into having discussions. I see a hand up. I don't see.
It's Josh.
Josh, yeah.
Hey, John. Hey, Carrie. Thanks for taking my question. Carrie, actually, this might be teeing up for the next conversation, and it's just something I've been thinking about, which is the connection between results-based accountability, SMART goals, which both are very data focused, and the tension, which is the next thing, which is qualitative, not quantitative. And those are trade-offs that we as supervisors have to, all of us as leaders have to wrestle with. There's things in our work, like lean is very about moving you along a progression of progress that's data minded, but there are metrics that are harder to measure, and I think that gets to what Carrie's training is next. So I just raise it as a tension that I feel and work with daily. So
Yeah, and Josh, it's really interrelated to a topic that you pointed out earlier in the training, which is coaching. And coaching really represents us an opportunity to bridge that gap between the data-oriented mindset and the human being that has to see and practice and improve and grow. And I really encourage you to check out that coaching training when we get there. And I want to thank everyone for their time.
Thanks,
Awesome.
John.
Thanks, Carrie. Thanks, Josh. Thank you, Peter, and the whole team for having me here. I'll go ahead and stop recording.
Great. Thanks, John. It was great.